Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with the FX Market Insight for the 25th of September. All right, as we go into Tuesday's trading in the start of the Asian session, the major currency pairs have started to settle down. We've seen most of the pairs with a bit of dollar weakness, dollar yuan pushing things around, are starting to sort of stabilise and starting to get into a bit more of a range situation. And that creates fresh trend lines to start to trade with. So the Aussie and Kiwi has really got mixed sentiment at the moment, but we've seen a little bit of a top out back into the range. Dollar yen slowly still climbing higher. Euro, well, we did have a pop to the top side during the European session. That's on the back of some positive sentiment from ECB President Draghi. So that's given the euro a bit of a boost, but overall still, I mean, it's trading slightly higher, but it's not super aggressive, which is probably a good thing. Now, sterling has recovered some ground. Once again, Brexit up and down, to and fro with that. It makes it very difficult to really locate where the good trading opportunities are, but it is settling down somewhat. Now, dollar CAD, we are starting to see it slide sideways, even though oil has rallied another dollar, up another buck. So then you come across to what you should be doing, I think, is come across to check out what's going on with the US dollar. These are the two big impacting currency pairs at the moment, dollar yuan and obviously the US dollar index. See what's going on, because when you look at the, I'll just come back to the other majors for a second. If you have a look at the chart here, usually when you're looking at the majors to see what's going on, you're really looking at the pairs that are quoted the same way against the dollar. So Aussie, Kiwi, Euro and Sterling are all the same way. Now, they should really be correlating. It's hard to say they are at the moment, but Aussie and Kiwi's correlating, and then you can sort of see there's a bit of a mixed correlation there with Euro and Sterling, but dollar CAD trading sideways and dollar yen going sort of up, and dollar Swiss actually is coming off, which I haven't got on this chart. But so you can see there's a mixed sentiment across the board. So what you want to try and do is isolate what's the dollar really doing, and that's where the dollar index really comes into play. Even though the euro is, more than half of the basket, it is, as you can see, it's just trading sideways at the moment. So, you know what, the dollar not really going up or down at the moment. I mean, we are seeing the short-term gyrations, obviously, up and down. It's moving around, but we do have the Fed this week, and that's actually gives the Fed a chance to stamp their footprint on the currency pair or on the US dollar. And, they've already sort of signaled they are moving towards a more of a neutral stance at the end of this year, but the market is already factoring in more rate hikes for 2019. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they say going forward from here. Now, the gap here, the Chinese, as we saw on the weekend, came out and stated they aren't getting involved with the US. They're sick of talking to them. They're not sending delegates. There's a bit of a gap in the dollar yuan, and funnily enough, it looks like the sentiment is real. Like, if they're not coming back to the table, right, and they are going to retaliate on Trump's tariffs, well, then that's going to lead to a weaker yuan, and that's what we're seeing at the moment. The dollar is appreciating, although the immediate impact has really subsided, and it is starting to trade sideways once again. So this is a real market mover for the Asian session in particular, keeping an eye on dollar yuan. Now, people have been asking me, do you think that the Chinese government or the People's Bank of China has been manipulating it? Yeah, totally. I mean, why wouldn't you? That's what they've been doing for years. So I see no reason to change that. But what you can't really sort of see it, right? But what you can see is what's happening around the globe. Now, a little bit of weakness dripping back into equity markets. It'd be interesting to see how the Chinese equities go, for that matter. That may be on, once again, the shift towards, global growth issues if this trade war blows up. To me, it's exhausting trying to keep up with what's going on. So, all you can do is focus on the currency pairs that do make sense, right? And this is where, if you come back into the MyFX Trading Hub, just start to break it down. Now, for those new traders who have just sort of joined us recently, I haven't really explained. Now, your daily trade routine, there's a whole sort of system or structure that you should go through, which slowly which isolates the best trading opportunities and reduces the overall risk on these opportunities. Now, one thing, first and foremost, is actually just checking out what's going on with the trading conditions. Well, geopolitics have been controlling things somewhat or overshadowing the currencies. It was good to see Draghi come in and actually speak yesterday and talk up the prospect of potentially raising rates in the Eurozone. We'll start the tapering. Okay, I should re-emphasise. There's no chance of them raising rates for probably a number of years. If I just come over here to the general news pages, right, you have a look at the general headlines here. Euro climbs to 3-month high on the back of positive Draghi spiel. If I can just get that up. Then I'll show you what's going on. It's more about the sentiment around potentially changing the... let me just go back to that. Potentially changing the stimulus, okay, high on Draghi's comments. Now, this fits in with a positive technical bias for Euro. Now, the main part is here, it's sort of down halfway through the article. You've got to be sort of really cherry-pick what's going on here. Draghi described an acceleration underlying Eurozone inflation as relatively vigorous. I think he's being a little bit over-positive, but expressed confidence a pickup in wage growth would continue, lifting the Euro. But he reaffirmed the Euro's pledge to keep rates at their rock-bottom level through the summer of next year. So what happened in that speech, this is what you're going to be aware of in speeches, he's actually saying, inflation's going through the roof. And that's when you see Euro pop up above 118. And then he says, by the way, we're not raising rates for probably another year or two. And that's when things sort of ease back. But it does reinstall a bit of confidence in the Eurozone by the ECB. And that's really important. Right, so then you come across, and I'll just come back to the MyFX Trading Hub in a second. You're looking at the general picture here. Now, Brexit, sterling bounces on Brexit hopes. Like, give me a break. 2 days ago, it was like Brexit, massive catastrophe, and it's up and down, up and down. So just be aware, sterling is a little bit of a basket case at the moment. It's more around general media reports that are being leaked by various politicians out of the UK. That's making it very tricky. Obviously, the euro had a little bit of a bounce, took out some stops above 118. China says US trying to force it to submit on trade as new tariff kicks in. Absolutely. And that's an absolute given. That's exactly what Trump wants. He wants to see the Chinese numbers hurt, and then he knows that's when they'll come back to the table. So Trump could keep it raising tariffs until the numbers impact, and then that's when he knows he's starting to dominate, and that's when things will change. But I think we've got another month or two before that happens. And here, down at the bottom here, Canadian dollar slips as US-China trade spat dims global growth prospects. Well, that's just a drummed-up story to fill some space, because that's actually against all pairs. And as we saw there a short while ago, if I just come back to that major page, if you're looking at the equity markets, then there's no major shift. US equities are down 0.5%, but that's no big deal. They're up last week, so it's just a bit of a story. So coming back to focus on the pairs, focus on what you can see and where the events that you can actually sort of make sense of. Now, if you look at this week, I've just really filled out the upcoming events, as in I've gone through and highlighted the major events. Now, there's a number of central bankers speaking this week. Now, these guys do speak to each other, although I don't think Kuroda's speaking to anyone. He's due to deliver a speech. Now, there is potential around that for him to say something crazy. I don't think he will, but that's why it's up there. And that's pretty much it. We don't have a hell of a lot to really go by. We've got US consumer confidence numbers. That'll be interesting. But as you go down through the week, obviously the Fed, which the US dollar impacting all current major currency pairs, will be the major event. But as we go through later in the week, we will get a clearer insight, and we do have a number of central bankers speaking. We've got Draghi, we've got the Fed Chairman Powell speaking, and the Canadian Governor Poloz speaking there as well. And then we've got some Chinese numbers, which is going to be very interesting. So what you want to do is really connect the dots. See where the data here isn't just primarily telling you what major events are coming out and which currency pairs may be a trading opportunity. This tells you where the focus for traders changes. They look for these events for potential momentum changes, or because that's the only thing that's really happening live. So that's why they watch them, right? And that's why you need to be aware when various releases, high impacting releases are coming out, because that's where the eyes of the bankers will change. But what they are looking at very closely all the time is, and each day they go through their analysis, isolating the general snapshot of these pairs. Now, there's a different sort of setup here. Last week we had, we've been having a bit of a bearish situation with Aussie and Kiwi, and sideways for Euro and Sterling. Now, these four pairs usually correlate. Now, they've swung around a bit more because the bullish picture for Euro and Sterling comes into play. And if you have a look at these pairs down the bottom, okay, they're all with the US dollar as the base. Generally, they all correlate. We've got a bit of a bearish technical situation with the US dollar and dollar Swiss. We've got sideways fundamentals for dollar CAD and even a bullish situation for dollar yen. So go work that out. This generally tells you if these four pairs at the top aren't correlating, and definitely these ones at the bottom, well then there's too many various impacting events discombobulating the natural flow of the currency pairs. And if I've just come back across and give you a bit of a quick look at this, the summary analysis, as you can see, the ECB going into a bullish mode matches the technical outlook. So we've got a bit of a bullish outlook at the moment with the ECB. The Bank of England, very much the same way. There's strong inflation last week. Definitely has the Bank of England on a hawkish interest rate hiking mode. The Reserve Bank of Australia, sideways with mixed sentiment. And that's the same for Kiwi. And then you've got a little bit of a bearish situation for the US dollar, dollar yen, sideways for the CAD, and a bit of a bearish sentiment there on technicals for dollar Swiss. So just looking at the board there, there's a bit coming out. Still, the major releases are from Wednesday onwards. So just take it easy and we'll see how these currencies play out. All right, guys, that's it from me. We'll see you in the live trade zone. All the very best.